Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding. You don't remember what exactly happened, but a face lingers. A strange symbol. A hallway. A voice you know but can't place. You turn on the lamp, shake it off, and tell yourself, it was just a dream. And in that moment, you close the door, not just to the night, but to a message. But what if it wasn't just a dream? What if that strange, disjointed landscape you escape from every morning is more real than the routine you wake up to? What if your dreams aren't random flickers of your sleeping mind, but coded letters from the deepest part of you? Letters you've been throwing away for years. There's a reason you dream of falling, of being chased, of losing your voice when you most need to scream. There is a reason you keep meeting people you haven't seen in years, people who hurt you. A reason your childhood home keeps showing up like a ghost in new disguises. And it's not coincidence. It's communication. Most people don't realize this. They think dreams are noise strange, erratic impulses meant to be ignored. We don't teach dream interpretation in school. We don't encourage it in therapy, unless it's Freudian trivia. We don't value it at all. And yet, every night, something ancient, powerful, and uncompromising stirs inside you. It speaks in symbols because that's the only language the soul remembers. Have you ever wondered why your dreams feel so strange? Why they don't speak in clear dialogue, but instead in metaphor, absurdity, and contradiction? Because the truth they contain is too raw for daylight. Because they bypass your ego, the part of you that edits and rationalizes, and goes straight for the places you've there buried. Your unprocessed pain, your deepest longings, your fears that never got a voice, your potential that never found a path. And still you dismiss them. You wake up, scroll through your phone, drink coffee, go to work, and the message is lost. Not because it wasn't sent, but because you didn't dare to receive it. But here's what no one tells you. Your dreams don't give up. They just get louder, more chaotic, more terrifying. Until one day, your waking life starts to feel just as confusing as your sleep. Maybe it already does. Maybe you've felt stuck for years and don't know why. Maybe you keep repeating patterns, same relationship, same wound, same fall. Maybe you've heard a faint echo inside you, trying to say something, but it always fades when logic steps in. What if that echo is the dream you forgot to remember? Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes." But what if the dream itself is the doorway in? Not a distraction, not a random hallucination, but a map, a riddle, a coded truth written in the language of your soul. And here's the paradox. The more you ignore it, the more lost you become. The more you decode it, the more whole you become. Because the dream is not outside of you. It is you, the parts you've rejected, the self you were before the world told you who to be, the voice that remembers what your conscious mind forgot. So, here is the great question. What are your dreams trying to tell you that you are too afraid to hear? What would happen if you stopped running from them? If you finally listened? And if the answer was buried beneath symbols, shadows, and silence? Would you have the courage to interpret the message? Because the truth is waiting, and it doesn't sleep. We live in an age of relentless stimulation, constant distraction, and curated identity. In the noise of daily life, we've learned to dismiss anything that doesn't speak the language of clarity, productivity, or logic. And so we discard the dream. But the dream doesn't disappear. It sinks into the dark waters beneath consciousness. And what sinks becomes shadow. This is where the hidden problem begins. You see, the dream is not meant to entertain you. It's not aesthetic. It's not a luxury. It is necessity because it is the voice of the unconscious. The part of you that holds everything your conscious mind cannot bear to face. Carl Jung didn't see dreams as meaningless leftovers of the day. He saw them as messages from the self, a deeper, wiser intelligence within you that wants only one thing: wholeness. But wholeness comes at a cost. Because to become whole, you must confront everything you've exiled from yourself. All the anger you suppress in the name of being good. All the desire you hide to stay appropriate. All the grief, the envy, the wildness you were punished for expressing. Everything you pushed into the dark. And what's in the dark? That's what the dream tries to show you. But instead of listening, we deny it. We escape into comfort, into entertainment, into ideology. We cover the mirror, because it's safer to stay fragmented than to feel the full weight of our inner world. Jung called this the great modern neurosis. Man has lost contact with the symbolic life. We think we're awake because we can think, because we can calculate, because we can scroll and produce and perform. But deep down, we are sleepwalking, moving through routines with a deep sense that something essential is missing. Why? Because without connection to the unconscious, we are not whole. And without wholeness, life becomes mechanical, empty, predictable, spiritually dead. The philosopher Schopenhauer believed that dreams are windows into the will, into the primal force of our being. They bypass the intellect. They show us not what we think, but what we are. And that's exactly what frightens us. Because what if the dream shows you that the life you've built is not yours? What if it shows you the truth behind your marriage, your job, your image truths you've carefully avoided? We live in denial not because we are weak, but because we are terrified. Terrified that the dream will dismantle the false identity we've spent years constructing. Terrified that meaning can't be outsourced, that no book, no guru, no system can save you from the responsibility of inner listening. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of bad faith, the act of deceiving oneself to avoid freedom. And nowhere is that deception more subtle than in our refusal to look inward, to listen to the dream, to take its symbols seriously. And yet, that refusal comes at a cost. Over time, the ignored dream becomes symptom. Anxiety, depression, creative blocks, addictions, things we medicate and analyze, never realizing they began as whispers from the soul. Whispers that said, "Look here, this is the part of you that is crying to be seen." But in a world that prizes reason above mystery, we learn to mock the symbolic, to pathologize the unconscious, to trust only what we can explain. And yet, explanation is not transformation. To interpret a dream is not to solve it like a puzzle. It is to sit with its mystery, to enter its landscape with reverence, to feel what it stirs in you and follow that thread. This is not passive introspection. It is an act of courage, because to meet the unconscious is to meet yourself stripped of persona. And that is the most terrifying encounter of all. So we hide behind rationality, behind control, but deep down, a part of us still remembers, still aches, still dreams, not for answers, but for reunion. You don't notice it at first. The impact of an ignored dream is not loud. It creeps. You start forgetting small things. A strange heaviness appears in the morning. You wake up exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. There's a low hum of dissatisfaction in your chest you can't quite name. You think it's burnout, or just stress. You tell yourself to get more organized, start a new routine, cut back on caffeine. But none of it touches the real wound, the wound of disconnection from yourself. When you ignore the messages of your dreams, you don't just silence the unconscious. You begin to lose access to the very compass that orients your life. And what takes its place? Noise, the voices of everyone else. Culture, media, algorithms, influencers, family expectations, telling you who to be, what to want, what to chase. This is how it happens. The further you drift from your inner symbolic life, the more dependent you become on external validation. You build a personality based on performance, not authenticity, not depth. You become a mirror of your environment shaped by trends, by fear, by what's marketable. And in doing so, you forget how to feel what is true for you. This is not accidental. Society rewards the disconnected self. A person in touch with their dreams becomes unpredictable. They begin to ask real questions. They stop complying. They start shedding layers of conditioning and rediscovering their own language, values, path. But a person cut off from the unconscious is easier to control, more compliant, more anxious to please, always looking outward for meaning, because inward feels like a dead zone. And the longer this disconnection goes on, the more fragmented we become. Have you noticed how common anxiety is now? How depression has become the background noise of an entire generation? How boredom, numbness, and apathy are normalized as the cost of success? These aren't just psychological disorders. They are symptoms of the lost inner world. We've built a civilization that prizes logic, speed, and productivity, but cannot sit with mystery, cannot listen to silence, cannot tolerate the discomfort of uncertainty. And so, we lose access to the very source of creativity, healing, and meaning. Dreams are where we rehearse life, where we grieve what we never got to mourn, where we meet archetypes that reveal our hidden potentials and dangers. When you stop dreaming or when you stop paying attention, you don't just lose insight, you lose yourself. And the consequences spill into your waking life. You find yourself attracted to the same toxic dynamics over and over again. Why? Because the unconscious is trying to complete a story, trying to show you the pattern you keep denying. You develop compulsions, irrational fears, strange obsessions, not because you're broken, but because the dream is still trying to reach you. And if it can't reach you symbolically, it will reach you through symptom. It will manifest in your body, your relationships, your addictions, until the pain becomes louder than the denial. This is not punishment. It is persistence. The self will not give up on you. And it's not just personal. On a societal level, the cost is even greater. A culture that ignores its dreams becomes spiritually impoverished. It loses myth. It loses depth. It replaces ritual with routine. It replaces story with content. It replaces introspection with optimization. We start to worship technology instead of mystery. We trade soul for spectacle. And slowly, the collective psyche begins to rot, disconnected from its roots, haunted by what it cannot name. The consequences are all around us. Mental health epidemics, loneliness in a hyper-connected world, a generation that knows everything except who they are. And it all starts with this, a refusal to listen to that whisper in the night, to that strange image that haunted your sleep, to that face you haven't seen in years, but just dreamt of again. Because the dream isn't random. It's the part of you you've left behind trying to come home. And if you ignore it long enough, you begin to forget there was ever a message to begin with. Rebellion doesn't always look like protest signs or raised voices. Sometimes, rebellion is as quiet as closing your eyes with the intention to finally listen. Sometimes, it's remembering a dream you were taught to forget and deciding this time not to dismiss it. The first step is not analysis, it's reverence. You are not trying to crack a code. You are reconnecting with a sacred language one that your rational mind will never fully understand. And that's the point. Because the rebellion begins the moment you stop demanding clarity and start honoring meaning. The moment you trade control for curiosity. The moment you enter the dream not as a skeptic, but as a seeker. Take one dream, any dream, not the most vivid, not the most terrifying, just the one that stayed with you, even if it made no sense. Write it down. Don't interpret. Don't dissect. Just preserve it, like a poem someone left you in a different language. Now ask, What emotion did this dream stir in me? What does this symbol remind me of, not logically, but emotionally? What part of me does this figure represent? This is how you begin to break free. Not by mastering the unconscious, but by re-entering relationship with it, by letting it speak, by letting it contradict, confuse, and surprise you. Because in that confusion, something ancient wakes up, something deeper than the ego, something whole. Jung didn't believe we could simply fix ourselves. He believed we had to integrate ourselves. That means taking back the parts of us we abandoned: the rage, the sensuality, the grief, the wild imagination, and welcoming them home. Not because they are perfect, but because they are you. And dreams are the doorway to those parts. This is why dream work is not soft or sentimental. It's fierce. It requires facing what you'd rather avoid. It means encountering yourself not as an idea, but as an ecosystem of conflicting forces, some light, some dark, all necessary. And the deeper you go, the more you'll realize. The things you fear in your dreams are often the parts of you that hold the most power. The snake, the storm, the stranger in the hallway. They are not enemies. They are messengers. They are energies you had disowned that are trying to return. The rebellion is letting them in. It's choosing integration over suppression, symbol over certainty, soul over strategy, and the tools are already within you. You don't need a doctorate in psychology. You need presence. You need patience. You need a willingness to feel what arises when you stop numbing. That's where the rebellion truly begins, in the refusal to numb. In a world that teaches you to escape discomfort through entertainment, achievement, distraction, sitting with a dream becomes an act of revolution, because it pulls you back into contact with what is real. And once you begin listening, the world begins to shift. Synchronicities appear. You start noticing patterns. Dreams bleed into waking life. People, events, sensations begin to echo the stories unfolding in your sleep. You start to feel like something is guiding you, not externally, but from within. And that something is not interested in your convenience. It's interested in your wholeness. You become less reactive, less performative. You stop needing everything to make sense, because you've tasted something more powerful than sense: meaning. And meaning cannot be forced. It must be invited. And it always begins where logic ends. To stop treating your soul like a problem to solve. To believe, just for a moment, that the strange landscapes of your sleep might be more honest than the roles you play by day. Because they are. And when you begin to live in dialogue with your unconscious, when you stop editing yourself for the sake of being palatable, when you allow the symbols to re-enter your life, you don't just reclaim your dreams. You reclaim yourself. What if you were never lost, only asleep? What if the thing you've been searching for in relationships, careers, books, and gurus has been whispering to you each night as you slept? Not in sentences, in symbols, in archetypes, in the strange, surreal language of the soul. The ultimate truth is this: your dreams are not separate from you. They are you. Not the you who learned how to behave. Not the you who polished the resume, smiled for the camera, played by the rules. But the raw, unfiltered self, the one who remembers what you came here for. And when you ignore your dreams, you are not just avoiding a psychological insight. You are abandoning your own becoming, because dreams are initiations. Each one is a mirror, a challenge, a doorway into the depths. And the more terrifying they are, the closer they are to truth. The monster that chases you? It's the anger you never allowed yourself to feel. The house that crumbles? It's the identity that's outlived its time. The endless staircase? It's your longing to rise beyond the person you were told to be. You don't have to interpret every detail to receive the message. You only have to be willing to feel. This is the final paradox. The answers were never hidden. They were disguised, so that only the part of you that truly wanted them the part of you brave enough to step into the dark, would understand. Carl Jung knew this. He didn't build a theory of dreams. He built a path that didn't end in explanation, but in transformation. Because once you truly begin to work with your dreams, not just as curious images, but as sacred messages, you change. Not overnight, but fundamentally. You begin to speak in metaphor. You begin to see in symbols. You begin to feel when something is off, not because it's irrational, but because it's soul-defeating. You begin to remember who you were before the world made you forget. And in that remembering, something beautiful happens. You stop running. You stop running from your fears because you've met them in dreams. You stop chasing approval because you've seen your worth reflected in mythic form. You stop numbing yourself because you've learned to sit with discomfort and let it speak. You become whole, not perfect, but whole, integrated, awake. And that awakening is not flashy. It's not loud. It won't make headlines, but it will make your life sacred again. You'll walk through the world differently. You'll listen to the small, strange urges that make no sense, but feel right. You'll recognize the symbols that appear in daily life, the owl on the windowsill, the childhood song that suddenly plays, the scent of a forgotten season. And you'll know this is not coincidence. This is conversation. You'll begin to live in dialogue with the unseen, and that is what it means to live with soul. So ask yourself one last time, what is the message you keep ignoring? What dream keeps returning in different forms, hoping this time you'll listen? It's not there to scare you. It's there to free you. Because beneath all the masks, all the fears, all the stories you've told yourself, you already know who you are. And your dreams? They've known it all along.